In my opinion, two of the best sporty naked bikes on the market in 2025 are the CB1000 Hornet from Honda and Yamaha's MT-09, and they both come in at a fairly reasonable price of around the 10 grand mark. But which one is the best and which should you go for? Well, I've been fortunate enough to ride both, and so in this video, we'll compare them category by category to find out. Now, one of the key differentiating factors between these two bikes is the engine layout, with the Hornet getting an inline-4 that's derived from the 2017 Fireblade, whereas the MT-09 is powered by their brilliant CP3 triple. The Honda is the more powerful of the two, making 150 horsepower in its base spec, and 155 with the slightly more expensive SP model because of an exhaust control valve that allows the engine to breathe more freely in the upper part of the rev range. It's a very lively engine once you've got it spinning up, whilst also being quite usable and civilized at lower speeds, and so you could say it's a bit of a bike of two halves. The MT-09, on the other hand, is more consistent across the rev range with a very flat torque curve, as you'd expect from a triple, with this often being touted as the main advantage of this layout. It doesn't rev out quite so high, and it doesn't make the same level of peak power, topping out at 120, but it does feel very gutsy and it's always ready to go. Which you'll prefer will probably depend on how you like to ride, with the Hornet handsomely rewarding more revs, whilst the Yamaha is happier to twist and go in any gear, but perhaps won't quite offer the same thrill at its maximum. Now, both bikes are available in two levels of spec, with a more affordable base bike and then a better equipped SP. The base Hornet, for example, gets Showa suspension front and rear and Nissin brakes, but an extra £1,000 or so will get you Brembo style Lemma calipers and a rear shock from Öhlins. Almost the exact same is true of the MT-09 as well, with KYB suspension and Advix brakes on the base model, and then an Öhlins shock and Brembo style Lemmas on the SP. In my experience, both are fine handling bikes in either spec, but with both the SPs offering sharper, crisper braking and a little more ride quality from that rear shock. The thing that did stand out to me though as a difference between the two has to be the weight, with the MT-09 feeling very lean and agile. It comes in at just 193 kilograms curb in the base spec, whereas the Hornet packs a little more weight at 211, and so you're looking at the best part of 20 kilos on top. Now, under acceleration, the extra 30 horsepower peak more than makes up for it, but through a corner, and with the lightweight spin-forged wheels, well, the MT-09 is the one that, to me, felt the more responsive. So if you're more regularly riding open, fast roads with sweeping bends, then perhaps the extra speed of the Hornet will be more rewarding, but on tighter stuff where you'll be relying on mid-range and flickability, well, I'd almost always go for the MT-09. In previous iterations, the MT-09 had quite an unusual riding position, with very high handlebar risers that had you quite sat up, almost in a supermoto stance. In some ways, you could consider it an advantage, being quite versatile and comfortable for day-to-day riding, but if you rode that bike in a more aggressive manner, perhaps it was a little too sat up to feel truly connected to the bike. A couple of years back though, they sorted it out with a lower set bar that's way more typical of the sporty naked sector, and I think with that change, these two bikes are much more broadly similar in terms of ergonomics. Perhaps now the biggest difference is the seat height, with both Hornets coming in fairly low slung at 809mm, whereas the Yamahas do sit a little bit taller at 825. Neither bike is offered with a low or high seat in the accessories catalogue, and so if you're more comfortable with a lower seat height, then the Honda's going to feel more manageable, whilst the extra loftiness of the MT-09 will probably appeal to those looking for a more sporty position. On the tech front, the Yamaha absolutely has the advantage, and I'd say that for a number of reasons. Firstly, whilst both have a colour TFT display, the Yamaha's the one that's a little more emotive in its design, with a better use of colours, fonts and graphics, whilst the Honda, as is often the case, comes off a bit sterile, which doesn't quite suit the bawdy nature of the engine. Then, there are more features as standard on the MT-09, like cruise control, which is a must on a new bike for me, and a 6-axis inertial measurement unit, which will make the rider aids a little more nuanced, with lean-sensitive traction control and ABS, slide control and wheelie control. Then, you've also got the option to spec the base model up with their YAMT system, or Yamaha Automated Manual Transmission. This costs an extra 550 quid, but replaces the clutch and gear shifter with electronic actuators so the bike can control the clutch and shifts on your behalf. That means there's no feather in the clutch to pull away, it's just twist and go, and you can either run it in an automatic mode where the bike takes care of the shifting on your behalf, or in a manual mode where you choose the gears yourself with the buttons on the left-hand switchgear. And it is a very impressive system, with super crisp shifts on the buttons that make it quite addictive under acceleration, although I will say on balance it's not that nuanced at lower speeds, and I'd probably still prefer to ride with a manual clutch for smoother maneuvers. All the same though, if you're a tech lover then you've got the option to spec it up, and if you're not, you can just go with the regular 6-speed manual and use the quick shifter for clutchless up and down shifts, which I should also add is standard fit even on the base bike. Honda, on the other hand, well, they do have some level of automatic bike tech with either their DCT system, or for just clutchless riding where you manage the gears yourself, there's the more affordable e-clutch, but neither are available on this specific bike, and the quick shifter is an optional accessory on the base model and only standard fit on the SP. Now, before we get onto the next category, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, and that's Cardo. If you want to make the most of the connectivity features on these bikes, then you'll need a decent headset, and in our experience, Cardo make the best in the business. We specifically use their PackTalk Edge and PackTalk Pro, both of which get great audio quality, and their awesome dynamic mesh communication system, which allows for up to 15 riders in a group with up to a mile between each. Specifically, the PackTalk Pro gets their new crash detection features on top, which I think is a brilliant peace of mind every time you go out for a ride. So do check out the link down in the description below to find out more, and you'll also find down there a discount code specifically for our viewers. Now, looks-wise, I'd say the Hornet is a touch more conventional with a fairly typical modern naked bike look, and a headlight that has a hint of Ducati Street Fighter about it. The standard bike comes in either grey, white or red, while the SP comes in black with some gold accents on the wheel, fork and graphics just to give it a visual lift that helps to signify the slightly higher spec. The MT-09 on the other hand is more contemporary on the looks and perhaps as a result a bit divisive, but certainly Yamaha have a more distinctive signature style that really comes through on this bike. The tank, for example, is a bit more angular, the stance perhaps more aggressive, and the snub front end with that unusual lighting layout helps it to stand out from the crowd, if not being to everyone's taste. For this one, the base bike comes in a light grey with blue accents and wheels, which would probably be my pick of the bunch, but you've also got the typical Yamaha Icon blue and a stealthy looking black. The MT-09 SP is just available in their Icon performance paint job, which is said to reference their R1M flagship sports bike. Looks are always going to be somewhat subjective, but I think the Hornet in the SP spec edges this one for me, but as always I'd love to know what you think down in the comments below. So look, some strengths here and there for each bike, but the all-important context is the price, which in some ways is similar, in others is really quite different. You see, you can get a Hornet and an MT-09 for almost exactly 10 grand, but it's just that the Hornet would be in the fancier SP spec, whereas you'd only get a base MT-09 for the same price. The SP version of the Yamaha would be a significant jump up at 11,800, whilst the base CB1000 Hornet comes in at a very affordable £9,000, which is especially impressive when you consider the sort of performance you get in. Does that mean then that the Yamaha is overpriced? Well, I'd say it's still pretty good value, and you get a lot of extra features on the base model, like the standard fit quick shifter and the 6-axis IMU and cruise control, which aren't even upgradable options for the Honda. But that said, of course, if you're purely looking at the mechanical side of things and are less so concerned about the tech, then a 150 horsepower weapon at £1 or £2 less than the Yamaha really does look quite difficult to beat. So in summary, for more revvy top-end speed and great value for money, of course take the Honda, but if you prefer mid-range lightweight agility and some more creature comforts, then the Yamaha is probably the bike for you. As always, I'd love to know which one you prefer though, so do let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to see our full videos on either bike, plus a full review of the AMT system, then I've made a playlist which I'll put on the screen now so you can give it a click and give it a watch for more information. Do hit subscribe for more of the latest motorcycle reviews and comparisons right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.